Press the start. Let's get it.
All right, guys. What is going on? It is a pleasure to be here. I have a very special guest with me. Someone from a past life that I used to work at, I used to work with, that did such a phenomenal job. And at that time, going back, I thought of the skills, just the intangibles that you brought to the table. And the reason why I wanted to set this up, Andrew, was because a lot of people don't know you. A lot of people might not know what the story is behind what you've done. And I've only got to witness it for 2.5 months. So without further ado, I want to bring on and welcome Andrew Alleyne to the table. Welcome to Perseverance.
Well, thank you so much for having me, bro.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's an honor. We're going to go right into it. I want to talk to you guys about a little story. So in a previous life, I used to work at a gym, a big box gym. And my story really started there. I was selling PT, personal training packages. And I just got into the rhythm of being able to sell. My first month wasn't so great. I had a female PTM, personal training manager, who did kind of all right herself. Wasn't so good with teaching and coaching. And then Andrew pulled into the scene after a little bit of a change. And in that month, we cracked best in the district. And we stayed best in the district until you left. So, and I only got to see what I call the Midas touch for a short period of time. But I want to know a little bit more about you and what you did and how you got to where you are today. I'm talking about the skill sets, the intangibles. And I only know you as being a successful personal training manager. Let's start from the beginning, from where that skill set came from. If you can go back to college, even high school, how did your story start out to becoming the man that you are today?
That's a complex question,
Mm-hmm.
man. It's funny. I think with sales, there's so many methodologies out there. Value selling. There's incredible books and stuff out there. But if we're speaking specifically to me and my skill set, it's probably a little bit of a unique, trajectory. There's some things that I think probably weren't taught. My dad, he worked at the United Nations growing up, so my background was a little bit interesting. From the time I was a little kid, we traveled the world, we lived in different parts of the world. So there was a lot of uprooting, change, and when you're a kid and you're going from Trinidad to Barbados to Amsterdam to Central Africa, and living in these different places and meeting different friends and being amongst different cultures, you have to quickly learn to adapt. There's different languages.
True. You
got to learn to operate and navigate different spaces. And so I'd say probably from the time I was very young, I was learning to navigate different spaces.
Okay.
So one, I think that is an important skill set, understanding your audience, understanding who you're in front of, understanding different ways to communicate depending on where you are. I think all of that can be traced to back then. But I think finally when we moved to Canada, I think the 90s was a really interesting time. I was born in the 80s. The 90s growing up, I think it was the rise of hip hop culture.
Yeah.
Everywhere I went, there were ciphers.
Yeah.
And it was weird. I'd grown up going to private school.
Yeah.
And I think for the first time I started, in the public school system, and it was the most black kids that ever been around, urban or suburban black kids that ever been around in my life. So now I'm learning how to I'm supposed to rap.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, what do you mean? I take piano lessons, that's not cool. Whatever it is, but I was, again, learning a different culture, learning a different space, but also in that era, with music. I mean, I can go on and on and on, but ultimately, learning how to fit into this new arena of development. And I think that's just been a constant theme throughout my life, man. Learning to navigate, learning different spaces. I think beyond that, that kind of translated into, I got into a ton of trouble, in the 90s, early 2000s, a ton of trouble. Everything from attempted assault with a weapon, possession of a legal weapon, sent to detention center in upstate New York.
Oof.
And turned my life around, faith became such a huge part of that component.
Mm-hmm.
And now I found myself in a different world, in a different arena, in a different country, away from friends and family. And opportunities came up to start sharing my story or my testimony in that world. So started traveling across the East Coast in jails, detention centers, schools, churches, you name it. Having to share my story, learning how to communicate, learning how to speak. Again, more skill sets that probably isn't the traditional methodology or something that you can necessarily just go and teach.
And learn.
But it's very different speaking in a jail. Speaking in the church. It's very different speaking in the church and speaking to teenagers. Very different speaking to teenagers, speaking to adults.
Yes.
So, I would accredit schooling aside and things like that. I would accredit really the skill set of sales or being able to communicate, to be able to listen and ask the right questions, to be able to craft a speech or a pitch to different audiences. I would accredit it way more to my upbringing as opposed to even the books I read.
Really? Okay. Okay.
Hopefully that answers the question.
No, it does. So there's so much gems and wisdom in what you said. So I'm going to try to paraphrase. So adaptability is something you're mentioning.
Absolutely.
And then understanding your audience. So you were able to cater your communication to the audience that you're in front of. And you're in front of a lot of people in order to build that let's say funnel of communication.
Yeah.
Right? Powerful. Okay, so let's go back to the Andrew that was in New York a little bit, right? Because I think there's a lot of people out there that are at that stage where you're surrounded in a community. And I went to New York 2 years ago, and I got to finally be there for the first time and see what that's like. And that's a jungle, going to Central Park, checking out MSG, checking out, a little bit of the Bronx, going up to Astoria a little bit, and it's just seeing the different neighborhoods. And then I'm like, it's a world out there. It's a big world. Toronto doesn't really compete to that. So let's talk a little bit about your mindset then and that transition from that kind of chaotic place. And you're probably in your youth, so it's even more uncertainty, right? Trying to figure yourself out. How did you manage to push through to a little bit more of a firmer place, in terms of development, I'd say?
Yeah. There's so many different directions I can go with that question, man. But I think at its core, and I want to be sensitive to whoever's listening, but I think ultimately for me at its core, faith was probably the hugest part of that component.
Faith, okay.
I think my mentality headed into there, again, you think of the 90s and music that was coming out and the mentality that we had, and I dropped a few things, whether it's armed robbery, whether it was, B&Es, whatever it was, that was kind of my mentality at that point in time. And I was going to a lot of funerals, surrounded by people dying. I can tell you crazy stories of people who are locked up for this, locked up for that, locked up, whatever it is, you name it. And here I was a 16-year-old kid, now in a detention center in upstate New York, probably the youngest person, one of the youngest people in that program. So, it was 16 to 21. I'm with guys from, New York City. I'm with guys from Compton, LA. I'm with guys from across the United States predominantly.
Wow.
And I'm talking about Latin Kings, like New York Bloods, not Toronto Bloods. This is different. Poverty in the U.S. is a whole different ballgame.
Oh, for sure.
Dudes from, South Texas and Virginia and Little Rock, Arkansas, like just a whole different ballgame. And I think it's pretty humbling. At least for me, it was pretty humbling being there, being one of the youngest. All these guys pump weights, And I think I was at a place too where I wanted change, man. So I really leaned into the faith component of that program. And really for me, it was just like, God, if you can do something in my life, here it is. And embraced change, embraced the process of that. Let go of so many of the things that I was holding on to, some of the hurts, some of the disappointments, some of the trauma of the past. Let go of many of the people and influences, and begin to align my life with people and places of where I wanted to be and where I wanted to go.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
No, 100%.
Yeah.
You ever heard of the quote from Steve Jobs where it's, you can't connect the dots looking forward, you can only connect the dots looking backwards?
I haven't personally heard that quote, but I hear you.
Yeah. If I tried to take that mental framework and put it to your life, there's such an incredible story right? From where you grew up and, being from the islands, it's not really easy in the islands, trying to figure it out, moving, and then New York, all that mixed up, and then moving up here, and then trying to figure out if I recall correctly where the story goes next. What my next question becomes, so faith being a good component of that, in that middle phase. One thing I asked one of my last guests, shout out to Troy Crossfield from Iron Sharpens Iron. Yeah, he's a great dude. And one day, if we get the chance to connect and make that happen, it would be an honor to. And I tied into this because I feel like you guys bring a very special aspect out of all the guests that I've spoken to thus far. And it's you guys bring faith in a realm where faith isn't, first off, the norm, and men of faith in your cultures is a rarity, I would say. And that have a verbal acuity to speak on the faith and then lead other people, right? So let's talk a little bit about that faith component. Why does it matter to you, and where and how does it carry you now? Let's talk a little bit about that faith component and why it matters. So let's imagine that I'm a complete atheist and I'm just going against you back and forth right now to debate. Why would it matter to me, and why does it matter to you?
I don't really debate with people, but I'll say it like this, man. I know who I am outside of God. I know the anger. I know what I'm capable of. I know the mentality I can have. So for me to be a dad of 5 kids, for me to have a softness or a gentleness, with my wife, with my children, how I lead, how I love, to be able to create a space where they feel seen and heard, where I didn't necessarily have that growing up. If I were to sit here and be like, it's all of my own strength, all of my own ability, like, I'd be lying to you. You know what I mean? Like, I know what it's like, to encounter God, to be impacted by His presence, and allow that to change me from the inside out.
Wow.
So for me to be able to say, I did all this work and I did all these 12 steps and I changed me, and there's work that I did, but every single day it's a constant reliance on, like, God, I need you to not go crazy on the person who cut me off in traffic. I need you, in this area or in this arena, or to be able to give me insight on how to parent or how to love, because I wasn't taught those things. I wasn't shown those things. So, for me, it's not really an argument, man. For me, it's an experience. For me, it's not really a theological debate. As much as I have studied theology and I can quote this and quote scriptures or whatever the case is, my constant encouragement to people, man, is God is really great at making Himself real to people who are questioning or who wanted to. And I say start there. Hey, that was my prayer in a detention center. God, if you will, do something with my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you would have told me, hey, the kid who was constantly getting in trouble and being charged with this and being charged with that, and 3 years behind in school, dropped out of school, this, that, whatever the case is, within a year and a half would be traveling the East Coast preaching in jails, detention centers, and schools, and that he had the capacity to make that happen. Crazy. You know what I mean? So, I can't take credit for my life, for where I am. I can't. There's so many people who have my story who ended up somewhere else.
So much worse.
Yeah. So, I count it all to the grace of God, man.
So, it's being in a position where you had to rely on something, and then having the faith that, and just being in a low place. It just sounds like in a place where you're so back against the wall that you reached out, and it looks like whatever you reached out to, who you reached out to, you reached back. And carried you. That's powerful. Let's talk about that aspect with the kids a little bit, and fatherhood, because that's a big one. A lot of people that grow up in struggle and then don't have that father figure, right? They can't see that vision for family. And I think you've done well. I've seen all your Instagram posts, and I see how the love that you pour into your kids, right? And the energy that you put into them, and the broadcasting, and the clarity that I see, the joy that I see from the kids. I can see that there's someone here that's trying to make an intention to make that happen. not having that from the past might make someone jaded enough not to bring that into the future, but you've broken that generational pathway. Let's talk about that path for you mentally. Like how was that transition? Not seeing something and then creating it yourself. I would call that generational curse breaking. But if we were to verbalize it, how was that process like for you?
Yeah, I think something incredible happens when you fall in love, right? If you meet a girl, you fall in love with her, all of a sudden you start watching rom-coms and you start liking things, or she puts you on to a coffee order at Starbucks or whatever it is. I don't know. The point is, reality is she probably introduces things into your world and shapes you in such a way without knowing, and influences you.
I agree.
And I think for me, I really began to fall in love with my relationship with God. And I think as I fell in love with Him, and as my faith grew, I began to fall in love with what He loves, which is people.
Wow.
God loves people. Oof. And I think that began to revamp and reshape how I see the world, my outlook on life, man. And I'll tell people all the time, I think I was a father before I was a father. I started caring about people, started loving people the way God has loved me, and the grace that He's shown me, and the forgiveness that He's given me, my heart for kids from a certain background, my heart for people going through whatever it is they're going through. I think that only translated to when I actually had kids. And kids is a whole different arena of development. I tell people it's like your heart being on the outside of your chest. There's new levels of vulnerability. There's new levels of development. But there's a word that you use, intentionality. We do so much work. People are watching this to learn about, sales or whatever it is. We do all this work and read all these books to navigate life or jobs or do years and years of schooling, but we don't put the same type of energy to, parenting or marriage or whatever it is. And those are things that are probably way more impactful
I would agree.
than the 4 years of university. So for me, it's also a commitment. Loving my kids means, it's a constant commitment to growth, to learning their generation, to learning what they're facing, to learning what works, what doesn't work, to creating a space where they're feeling heard, feeling seen, understanding their emotions, their feelings, and what love looks like in each season, what leadership looks like in this context. But it's a commitment to growth, man. So outside of God reshaping my heart to even want to grow, I grew up in a context and era where if you were a certain age, just whatever you said went. There was no it was, you got to respect your elders, even though your elders were not worthy of respect. Even though their character was lacking. Even though this where, for me, I think outside of being my children's father, my goal is to be a man that they can respect, to be an individual that, that they care to emulate. So things along those lines, but a commitment to growth, to be the best version of myself, and
And that's carried you to this point.
Absolutely.
Wow. So it's being conscious in that process, versus kind of just surviving it, kind of just doing it at whim, kind of what it seems like our past generations have been doing.
Oh yeah, autopilot. Whatever people
autopilot.
think, it's like, wait, hold on. Why are we hitting our kids? Where did that come from? Why do you think that's okay? I know what it's like to, try spanking and then look in the eyes of a 2-year-old girl and see her afraid of me. And is that really what I want to reproduce?
Definitely not. The trauma that instills, the negative emotion that instills, and it's beautiful to see that consciously in that process you changed yourself, and the change is what I want to emphasize is so powerful. There's so many things that can go into with that conversation, fatherhood, and just not having a good example and then being the good example. And I can't give you enough flowers where that's due. I always like to give flowers where interviews are. I'm gonna give you your flowers kind of in the midway of my questions. I think the thing, Andrew, that I've always respected about you is I come from the bottom myself, right? So when I look at people, my mind, what it goes to is I look at patterns, if I can connect with people or not. I think I have the skill set where I can connect with pretty much everybody. But there's some people that are just natural connected better than others. The minute you got into the building, the one thing I could just relate with is I could tell that there's a level of poverty and brokenness that made you very easy to understand. I don't go into rooms where people can understand it. I grew up in a single parent home. Dad passed away when I was 3, right? It was a murder. We grew up in poverty. Mom was on a welfare check. So for me, the B&Es, trying to, chop whatever we could to make money was the norm for me, right? And seeing you kind of come in, you were composed, articulate. And I remember at the time, you were so good at your job that the people around you, I don't know if you know it, but the sales rep around us at the time were like, oh, he's sleazy, he's this, he's that. And to my mind, I would laugh and I would say, if you knew how much pain someone has to go through to develop that kind of grit and ability to be able to do what he's doing, you wouldn't be saying so much. Right. So I want to give you flowers in that, but I want to go into sales a little bit because that's clearly your gift, and it's something that I think the world could use. With the way that AI is going right now, with artificial intelligence, I feel that the world is losing that ability just to be able to communicate right now, and that ability to have deep conversations. Talk into a little bit about what you think, because I know that you're doing tech sales and you did that for a bit, and you've been in the sales space throughout your career. Where do you see the world that's happening right now going in terms of tech, in terms of sales, and what's some expert advice you give to somebody out there just starting out in the industry?
Yeah, I mean, AI is an incredible tool,
100%,
and I mean, we use it a ton in our world.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's not, for me at least, it's not to knock it, but I think like any tool, whether it's social media, I don't care, whether it's Netflix or entertainment, how you use it is what's really important. And I think what I found in sales is, in my world, I deal in the enterprise world, so, companies, 10,000 people, employees, and things like that. There's an element that I would really have a hard time finding AI replacing. I think people ultimately buy, yes, you uncover value, but to even get them on the phone or to earn 30 minutes or an hour of their time for a discovery, they have to like you. You have to be able to implement systems, that work of consistency, or, being able to do research and find out about, your prospect and create crafty emails that they might actually want to open when they're getting hundreds of emails a day. It's going to make you stand out.
Oh, yeah.
And I think AI is tough to really, you can put in great prompts, but it still needs somebody sort of directing that ship. It's an incredible ship. It's an incredible vehicle, but you still gotta, guide AI. So I think that skill, of being able to, there's some things that I think are just intangibles for me based on my upbringing. But I think fundamentally for somebody starting out in sales, there is this undercurrent of understanding your client and researching your client. I don't care what arena. Are you interested in the girl? What is she into? What does she like? Look at his social media page. Okay, she seems to be into this music, or whatever the case is. Whatever it is you got to do, you're doing your homework in a non-stalkerish way. Sales, you could be a little bit more stalkerish, but
investigative.
Absolutely investigative. I'm looking at their keynote speeches. I'm listening to things, whatever. I'm looking at the school that they went to and dropping the name of the football team at that, the alma mater, whatever it is in the subject line, the title, or whatever is passionate to them. Oh, they volunteer at this, and they're part of this board, and so maybe that's an important
pain points.
Whatever, things like that that can really help you connect with an individual. That I think, regardless of AI, it'll be hard to replace some of those things. That's just my perspective, and I think especially at that level, people still value in person, but you have to quantify it. You have to, has to be worth their time.
100%.
So
100%. Yeah. I was talking with a founder of an app, and we had a big discussion about this. And the big thing was, he's so big on tech and so big on AI. And I told him, no matter how far you go, he's a very introverted type. right? And I was a part of the sales team for a little bit. I told him some holes, and I told him you'll never be able to replace a good salesperson. A salesperson brings in something, a unique component to a team, you know, and it adds on to everything you're saying. It's a good tool. It'll never replace the salesperson. Now, Andrew, let's go into if you can go through your entire life and you could look through and give, I'm gonna just say 5 quick tips for the younger version of you up there. If we could just, it's kind of like an elevator pitch where you give 5 things that you would push someone, a younger version of you who wants mentorship to go do or look into, and then maybe a few things that they should avoid. You know, just from your years of being you, anything that a younger man can look at and take and work with. What would you put? If we put it a 5 and 5, and just off the top of your head.
I don't know if I'll give you 5, but you know, in terms of what's coming to my mind.
Yeah, whatever flows.
I think certain things just aren't incredibly complicated. So I would tell somebody you don't have to reinvent the wheel. I'm all for innovation, but you know, if you want to be in a certain place or you want to be of a certain caliber or a certain person of character, get around people like that and find out what they're doing.
Okay. So environment.
You know, so whether it's environment or whether it's just fundamentally, if you can't get around those people, like listen, if the person who is, you know, working out and waking up and they're putting in 2 hours a day in the gym and you want to be like that, stop trying to do it in 30 minutes. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't gotta overcomplicate it. At a base point, start with what they're doing.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So you can apply that to whatever, whether it's sales, whether it's a profession, whether it's in music industry, whether it's entertainment, whether it's a lawyer, whatever it is. You know, what did they do? How are they studying? What are they focusing on? Okay, their math is whatever. You know, whatever it looks like. You don't got to reinvent the wheel. I'd say number 2, man, and I think going back to the environment standpoint, there's all kinds of sayings out there, show me your 5 closest friends or whatever it is, but you know, I'd say get people who are friends of your future. You know, I think sometimes we, on autopilot, whoever we met, whoever we grew up with, whatever we're around, and those are our closest friends. But the crazy thing about friendship and relationships is that it's actually something we get to be super intentional about. I think healthy community and healthy friendships is actually worth fighting for, is worth separating yourself from people who are not friends of your future and finding people who are actually, not from a transactional standpoint, but people who are the people that you really want to do life with and do the journey with. Powerful. And are going to aid in you being a better version of yourself. So whether you're in the bottom, whether you're in the sewer, whatever, if you want to be in the sewer, then, you know, stay around people in the sewer. If you don't want to be in the sewer, try to put yourself in spaces outside of that and fight for it. You may look fun, you may not talk as eloquent, you may not have the same language, cool, keep showing up. Go play basketball in a different neighborhood with kids, whatever that looks like for you. And, you know, that's one, find friends that are people, you know, people who are friends of your future.
That's wow.
I'd say number 3, man. I so believe in systems, in the sense of, you know, there are certain things that I bring to the table that my upbringing, my story, it's kind of hard to reproduce that because I don't really try to know my audience. It really comes naturally to me. So it's not a skill set that I inherently work on and craft and spend a lot of time and energy. Some of those subtle pickups. There's an incredible book called Blink. You know, but there's some of those subtle pickups. I love Malcolm Gladwell. So if you're not he's a great. There's so many. I love him. But, you know, there's an incredible book that just talks about, you know, without me noticing, I noticed the smile on your face. I noticed the this, I noticed the that. And I'm not really taking it in, but it changes how I might posture myself. It changes how, whatever. And I pick up on those things really naturally. But as much as some people have natural giftings and abilities, there's an element of hard work and systematic stuff that sometimes will outwork and outperform natural abilities. I'm in an incredible environment, and I know when I first started, It was, whether it was from the hiring standpoint, my interview standpoint, the position they gave me to start, there was clear evidence that, this guy's got some natural ability. He's going to be great. He's going to be good. And I can tell you right now, there are people who outperform me because they would reach out to people 3 times as much as I would in a day. And it wasn't because they were better. It wasn't because their ratios were better, whatever the case is. But man, their pipeline grew so much faster, whatever it is. Yeah. And they just, take that hard work. Sometimes that trumps, just natural ability, or relying on natural ability and do things. So be somebody who's willing to, put in hard work to create systems of healthy systems that will help you function. So I think that's just 3. And I'm trying to think. In terms of anything else, man, I think purpose is so huge.
Powerful.
And finding purpose, something that outlives you. I tell people, if you're the most important person in your vision is too small. And life is so fickle.
So true.
You can be here today, gone tomorrow. Are you building something that outlives you? Are you planting seeds for trees whose shade you might never sit in? Are you building something beyond yourself? And I love my kids, but I think in everything that I do, there's just a bigger purpose that is driving me of impacting and living a life of significant impact in whatever arena I'm in. So whether it's in a faith environment, whether it's in a work environment, whether it's, meeting other dads when I'm picking up or dropping off kids and connecting and grabbing a number and grabbing coffee or whatever it is, or,
in a gym setting.
In a gym setting. Whatever that looks like, man. Figuring out, purpose, what you're on this earth here to do. And I think that's such a huge component, man. And I think that also ties into number 5. Being a part of something that is bigger than yourself. I think faith for me has really been that outlet. I need my best is not enough. And I think my best in terms of my capacity to love my kids is not enough. My capacity to love my wife is not enough. Whatever it is. And, understanding that not from a place of like, not to talk down to anybody or say that you're not enough, but from a healthy understanding of like, I need something more powerful than me to impact my world around me.
It's almost like you can see the fullest version of yourself when you see that there's a bigger perspective.
Yeah.
An ethical code that you can't match and you can't get to, and you need something there. Right? I can foresee the shadow of how the gospel plays into that. You just gave some really, really, really powerful tips there, guys. And if we can go into an environment, and then segueing into who you're around, purpose, these are such powerful tips that we can use. And then I do want to get what you would avoid in a second, but I want to segue into one more thing that just popped into my head. So I think the value in your story is finding that purpose. Purpose is such a powerful word, but I do feel like it's really tapped into today. I feel like people kind of misuse it, like the purpose-driven life and things like that. And shout out to Warren for what he's done. It's great. Let's talk a little bit about how you were able to cultivate that word. Throughout your life, it seems like there's an incredible amount of uncertainty, right? So purpose might not have been possible for you, right? I see Andrew as kind of like on a ship that didn't have a really good direction or a map. So how did you cultivate that early on for someone maybe that's out there that needs to kind of know how to build that without having it?
Yeah, you're giving me a lot of credit. You know what I mean? And I say that just because, like, my dependency, if I'm driving a car, maybe people think I'm like incredible, but the reality is all I did was press a pedal and turn a wheel, but there's so much more that went into that vehicle, maybe from point A to point B. And,
Oh, yeah.
you know, I really believe I'm a vessel man, but in terms of, I didn't just go and cultivate purpose. I feel like I was given purpose, and then it was my responsibility to steward that.
Mm.
And, you know, like I said, I think this life is bigger than just our own agendas. Let me get the nice house, let me get the nice car. Because there's people who go out and do that, and man, they're unhappy, they're this, they are gone tomorrow, and they leave it all behind, and you can't take it with you. And if that's the fullness of your life, you know, just getting 8 figures in the bank or whatever it is, man, there's so much more to life than that.
Mm-hmm.
So one, for me, I feel like I was given purpose from God, from a faith standpoint. And for me, my purpose is people, man. Is leaving the world around me better than how I found it. Never leaving anybody worse than how I found them. That's always my intention. So whether it was, you know, in a big box gym setting and I only got 2 months with you, my intention was to go in there and ultimately, however long I get to be around this crew before they put me onto another space to go and fix another gym or whatever it was, the intention was to always come in and plant seeds that would leave people better off than I found them. But that just translates to everything. Translates to my kids, translates to my wife, it translates to my neighborhood, translates to purpose is not changing.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No,
It doesn't matter what arena I'm in, doesn't matter what job I'm in, purpose is still the same.
I think that it's just incredible because that mindset, I didn't know that's how you were thinking when you came into LA, right? So for me, I was in there and I was just a scrappy kid trying to get any sale I could, right? A lot of people don't know, but I made $40,000 in 3 months. I've talked about this before on the channel, and it was the grace of God because there's some times where I went into the washroom and I knelt down and I prayed and I came out and there was a sale waiting for me, 2 times per week, and I would close it. And I knew that there was some type of divine guidance helping me out. When Brendan came in and tried to swap me to being a full-time sales guy, and then I got in trouble because I was PTing some of the people, and you can't do that. You can't be a sales or a PT guy. I was getting written up for it, and something just kept me through the whole time. And then seeing you come in, it almost looked like you weren't even trying, and that's what I think that was the incredible part. It's just such a calm, stoic leadership that came in. It wasn't very sporadic. It wasn't all over the place. Like Vanessa was the thing I loved about Vanessa was she was all over. She was on the floor. She was making the calls. She was all over the place. You came in, it was just one smooth shit, you know, and dominated that sector. I remember we were getting shout outs. I did my best month while you were on the team. I cracked 18K in that first month. And now that I know that that's where your mind was, I can see why it translated to my success ultimately. It was really, the minute you left, I remember that moment. Somebody else that was kind of hired around the same time took over. They got the move up into a higher position. And when we talk about leadership, I'm not knocking who that person is, but you could see that there's a distinction of difference in leadership. One was very calm and almost like you've done this a lot before. Clearly you have, right? Versus someone who just walked into the role and there's a lot of ego behind it, right? And that ego, it carried her far, but she couldn't carry anybody else with her on that ship that she was on. And it sank so quick. My performance dropped, my energy dropped. I just didn't even want to come in anymore and compete. You know, and ultimately the culture changed. Everything on that team changed to the point that everyone got removed in about a month after you left. It wasn't even the same team anymore. The performance just sunk. And I don't know if they knew what they did or was wrong, but now I can see what you did right.
Yeah, you're touching on a few things, whether it's succession planning, you know, in the business world. It's one thing to come and implement a culture. It's another thing to create tools that allow that culture to continue to be reproduced and, you know, levers that hold it accountable. Another thing that I think is just really big when it comes to whoever you are as a leader, you reproduce who you are, not what you say. And, you know, if you're driven by ego versus being driven by, I genuinely want to help people, whether that's the people I'm selling to or the people that I'm managing, that place of authenticity. And, you know, sometimes when you're doing good, people will attribute all kinds of motives. And people think they know you. People think they got to figure you out, whatever the case is.
But, man, nothing but the truth on that. Oof.
Yeah, and you know, like I said, people will say you gotta also have thick skin too, which, you know, doesn't That stuff doesn't bother me. But at the end of the day, you reproduce who you are.
Mm.
And I think it is so much more important to figure out, that you are becoming who you want to be. Because that is ultimately will translate to your kids, to your environment, whatever it is, as a manager. So, yeah.
Andrew, I love it. The thing I love about talking to you is it's the wisdom from the experiences that you have. Almost, and I know this is not the truth because no one ever has the answer to everything, but it seems like you have the answer to everything. And I can just tell that's like the years of experience, the years of just being in this role, and that's why I feel like I could ask you any question and walk away with some type of value from it. And I just, now that I've learned your story a little bit more, now I know where it comes from. I can see that this is just a bigger picture piece playing and giving you all these lessons so that now you could be a pivotal board for other people. You know what I mean? I always say that great leadership is seen by who you care and what you care. And my man, I can clearly tell that you're a leader. I told this to Troy too, and he was taken aback by it. But it's always an honor to see leaders. They might not have the platform that they want to have, but everyone that I've spoken to thus far is somehow leading in some type of way, and it's incredible to see what you're doing and what you have done. I think there's so much value in this video that I could go on and on. You guys know that I could talk all day, but I want to leave this with, I've given you the flowers, and I think the flowers can go on for 2 or 3 days, just with your composure, compassion, what you do as a family man, what I see on the screen, and then what I see you've built. I want to lead with, if there's any questions you have for me that you wanted to ask. There's a question or two, feel free to ask it. If not that, I want to give the audience a chance to figure out where to find you, where to look out for your next work, and what you have planned next.
Yeah, I don't think I have a question for you, man, but I do want to encourage you. I think in a world where people are afraid to fail, many don't even start.
True.
And, I just want to commend you, man. I think at different parts of your life, I've just been a fly on the wall. Somebody really on the outside looking in, so I can't speak to every single arena or, what the last several years for you look like, man.
Yeah.
But I think even your heart, just for this podcast, I don't know if people know that, one of the first things you said to me, man, is you really want to impact people. You want to create a resource that impacts people who may not have access to certain resources.
Man.
And I think you have such a beautiful vision for, these segments that you're doing. I want to encourage you.
Thank you.
And I want to commend you for starting.
Thank you.
And I think this world, whether or not you've already shared it or not shared it, but this platform, your story is probably your biggest tool in your pocket. And I think so much more than, having the great sound bites or the great whatever, you fully showing up and being the fullest version of yourself is probably the greatest tool on this platform. So the little tidbits you gave of your story, your drive, what drives you, I think. I'm excited to see as you continue to do this, what that looks like as that comes to the forefront. So just encouraging you, man.
Thank you. I think just to wrap, with perseverance, I think the reason why I named it Perseverance was because if I looked at my career, I wasn't really the smartest, never really had an aptitude for school. I definitely have ADHD correlated traits, a little bit sporadic all over the place. But what has helped me, Andrew, in my life, even just to get my car, get the things that I have had, is that little bit of your story in mine. The adaptability to go into rooms and just navigate those rooms. And I've noticed that there's been a few opportunities recently for me that people have offered me hybrid roles where they see this gift and they're like, hey, let's use it here. So try this 100% base commission job. Come be a car salesman, right? Or recently I've got a contract coming up for a hybrid role where I'm doing coaching and then I'm also doing sales. And I've taken a look back and I've realized that this thing that I'm working on, or I always had, has just never been utilized before. I've never really learned how to utilize it. So for someone else that's like me, who kind of grew up the way I grew up, wasn't really athletic growing up, had different skill set. I was surrounded by women most of my life. I guess that has built up.
I was athletic. I wasn't like that.
With the physique that you have, the physique you have, I believe it. But perseverance came from building that up. I wanted to figure out how CEOs think, how movement leaders, thought leaders think and what they do and how they do it, how we can use communication to really get the ball moving. And everyone I've interviewed thus far has been on that spectrum to some certain degree. And where it goes now is I'm going to continue to speak with leaders. I think you're number 6 or 7. I have another at least 10 lined up in the future that are going to be done within the next month, and then hopefully 100 by the end of the year. But the vision is to empower as many people and then to build some frameworks that I haven't really, and products that I haven't really discussed just yet, that are going to really impact a lot of people out there. And stories like yours are going to be pivotal in showcasing why I think that even just these podcasts, hearing people from different places that have built a skill set, can help make this world a better place.
Awesome, man.
Yeah, man. Without further ado, this has been Andrew Alleyne. Do you have anywhere else you want to kind of have people reach out to you? Because I think your story, your life, I think does need to be broadcasted. I think that people can gain so much from it. The beauty that I see when I see your kids having fun, the life of adventure that I see that everyone's going through. And then me personally, I love seeing the moments you're on stage. You know, I love to see that presentation skill that comes out, because like I said, they say, and I don't know if I'm wrong on this or right on this, but people are more afraid of jumping off of like a cliff or a skyscraper versus speaking in front of the stage. And when I see you do it so casually, you know, with the candid photos, I think it's just so cool. So for people that want to see more of that, where do they find you?
Instagram is a safe place.
Okay.
At Andrew Alleyne.
Okay.
You can find me on there. But I like to believe I'm the same guy on there as I am here. It's, you know,
Yeah.
This is me. Show up. There's no separation. Don't be afraid to reach out.
Have we thought about doing YouTube and teaching some of the communication skills, the sales skills, and all that to people out there?
I get that a lot, man. But you'd be amazed. Like, I'm one of those people where I don't feel the need to like force open doors for myself. I'm much more of a, if somebody invites me, I will come and speak. I've done the entrepreneur side of things. I've started movements and organizations and nonprofits and travel. I've done that. And I'm at a place now in my life where I will walk through open doors as opposed to create stuff right now. So I'm in a season where I'm being asked to go and create and make, but for now I'm really content with this season of life, man, and you know, doing what's in my hand until I can really do all that's in my heart.
I hear you. Yeah, and it sounds like we have so much things that we're packing. I see the young ones who are going through the developmental stage. So you being present with them, I can imagine is at the forefront for you.
Yeah. Life is busy.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Love it. I love it. Sir, it's always been a pleasure and an honor.
Absolutely.
And I know a lot of people are going to find value in this. Again, guys, if you guys want to check him out, he's on Instagram. And if there's anything that you gain value from this conversation, please let me know in the comments down below. This is Andrew Alleyne on episode 7. It might be number 8, depending on when I upload it. It's summertime here in Toronto. We've got a lot of bangers coming up next. So follow, stay tuned, and subscribe for more content. That being said, we are out. Peace. All right.